Welcome to the Workology podcast, where we discuss the science and art of the workplace, gain powerful insights, resources, and perspectives on the industries of human resources and recruiting. Join your host, Jessica Miller-Merrill, chief blogger of bloggingforjobs.com, for an in-depth and no-holds-barred look into the future of our most powerful business asset, the employee. And now, welcome your host, Jessica, with this podcast episode of Workology.
Even though we are living in a digital world, career fair and job fairs remain an effective way for talent acquisition and recruiting leaders to engage candidates. A 2015 survey by Nicole Dessain, the co-author of Handbook of Human Resources Management, found that 84% of respondents participated in university career fairs. We're here today to talk about best practices in your career fair and job fair efforts with my friend Kim Hollinshead. Kim is a seasoned professional in HR and recruiting, and she's oversaw university recruiting efforts for companies like VMware. She's worked for tech companies including PayPal, and she's currently the senior recruiter over at Xenos. Kim, welcome to the Workology podcast.
Thanks, Jessica.
Well, let's talk about recruiting at university career fairs, since that's the topic for today. Let's say that a recruiting team is looking at maybe revamping or updating their career fair efforts. Where should they start?
I think one of the easiest things that campus recruiting people tend to look at is swag, the things that they give away for free, the things that will entice students to remember them. I think if they're looking specifically at swag, they need to be making sure that it's swag that's useful to the student and is something that has their brand name that the student will pick up time and time again, as opposed to something that might just sit in the drawer and not be used. But beyond that, I think a really important thing for university recruiting efforts is to look at the right team of people that you're bringing to the career fair. You're wanting to make sure that you're bringing people that can give the students a really clear understanding of what a day in the life might look like at the company, but more specifically at the day in the life of the job that they're applying for. You'll also want to make sure that candidates know what the next steps look like in the process. Should they send you a resume via email? Should they apply to a certain URL? Where can they find a list of all the open positions that they would be considered for with their background? And then how should they follow up? How long will it take for them to hear back? I know I had a colleague once who thought, I'll just bring my business cards and pass these out to candidates. And then when you look at the slew of candidates at a career fair, especially in university recruiting, I don't think you really want all those students actually emailing you specifically. So making sure that they have a really clear understanding of what the next steps look like. And it may be that the follow-up is, we'll contact you if you're the fit or if you're the right candidate. But I think candidates and students specifically really need to hear that probably more than once.
Yeah, because now they can find us on the internet and send a barrage of emails following up constantly about their career fair that you visited with them 2 months ago.
Correct.
I like the idea of having kind of a frequently asked questions guide for those who are attending the career fair. Maybe they're hiring managers or recruiters, so everyone's on the same page and they're sharing the same or similar information with candidates as they're coming up to your booth.
Yeah, and it's really good to have those pre-calls, and especially for people that may not have attended career fairs representing a company, for them to get a really good understanding of what could happen, and again, having a frequently asked questions document for them to refer back to would be super handy for sure.
Even if they don't read it or your emails or really pay attention to the call, at least they have that FAQ in their hand, so when they get that first question, they're like, I do vaguely remember that somebody told me to take a look at this, and then they have something to reference. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, when it comes to career fairs, you, as recruiter, are really limited, and you have a very small window of opportunity to engage job seekers. So how do you make sure that you're reaching the most qualified candidates?
One of the things that you're going to want to do even before you go out to the universities is making sure that you're going to a university that makes sense for your candidates to come from. If I were looking for a certain type of student, there are probably more specific schools that I want to focus in on. So I'd want to get that research done first and foremost. And then making sure that you're in good communication with that school. Hey, is there a place that we can post our job? Do you have places that you could post flyers for us? I would even go as far as, and to be really creative, maybe having some sort of speaker come and speak at the school either the night before career fair or the night after the career fair. But the night before the career fair is really, really exciting because it gets students pumped up. Then they're going to want to definitely come out to your booth and see you and speak with you specifically about the jobs or about the topic that the person came to speak to the night before.
I like the idea of having them come before, because then, you can kind of maybe invite folks to the booth that you think are somebody that you'd like to have more conversations with. And they just have a chance to get to know the company a little bit better than they would if they were just meandering around a career fair.
Exactly.
Also, I wanted to know about, how do we get these candidates to come to your booth when there's maybe 75, 300, how many ever companies that are represented? What are some ways to drive booth traffic during a career fair?
Yeah, a lot of times, especially if you're working for a company that they're not used to seeing, if you're not one of the big companies maybe in technology that's out in the Bay Area, you're not going to be known as well. So make sure that your people standing at your booth have T-shirts that talk about your company, have some sort of funny logo. I mean, I know there are a lot of companies that are still very buttoned up and everybody's in button downs and just a company logo. But if you have something fun that's enticing, especially again for a company that may not be as well known, I think that's going to help a little bit. And also, never, never, never stand behind the table just waiting for the students to come up. I find that I get out there in front of the tables and I shake hands and I talk to students and I ask them, who else have they talked to? Hey, have you heard about our company? Come and talk to me about my company. So again, if you're that smaller company, you're having to be a little bit more out there and in front of the students, doing some things that'll excite them and make them want to come and talk to you a little bit more.
I like the idea of standing not behind but in front of the booth, because
never behind the table.
That's for trade show people too. Like anybody in general, never stand behind the booth or behind the table, because it's just a barrier and people feel that like you're closed off and you're not very welcoming.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's take a little bit of a reset here. This is Jessica Miller-Merrill, and you're listening to the Workology podcast powered by Blogging for Jobs. Today's topic is how recruiters can wow candidates at career fairs and job fairs with my friend Kim Hollinshead. You can connect with Kim on Twitter at Kim's Hollinshead. It's KIMHOLLENSHEAD. All right. So, I know you and I have had some conversations about some interesting things that you've done over the years at career fairs, one of which is QR codes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about QR codes and maybe other immersive technology that you think could be a great way to engage candidates at these career fairs.
Yeah, and I know QR codes have been around, but I think there's still a place for them just for a quick way for students to reference back to your career page and things like that. So I think that's a super handy piece of information for them. And especially when you think about it, especially at college career fairs, they're walking around usually with a nice portfolio, usually in some sort of suit or a nice dress skirt and things like that, and heels that they've never walked in, which is sad, but it happens. But you don't want to give them a whole bunch of things to carry. So a QR code on a quick little maybe postcard size flyer information would be a way for them to access your career page. I think some of the other things that you can do is make sure that they're following your social media pages and make sure that there's valuable content on those social media pages. If there's a way for you to connect with them on Twitter or Facebook, if you have a Pinterest board for your career page, I think that's great. And again, I can see a day in the life. So I would use all kinds of social media. If you're good with Snapchat, figuring out how you can talk to students about that. So for us here at Zenith, when we're doing events here in our office, we'll maybe Periscope or Meerkat a live videos so people can watch those. So making sure that the students, again, have some sort of information that they can go back after they've left the career fair, because they're inundated with information, but give them something that they can walk away with. They can go and research on their own, look at all the different social media channels, and have ways that they can connect with you there.
I just talked with Connor Blakely, and he's my Generation Z expert on the previous episode of the podcast, and he mentioned that 80% of Gen Z researches brands prior to engaging them. So I think having that social media presence and those 4x6 cards with the QR codes, all those things, super important, because candidates and these job seekers are going to want to look and see what you're doing before they make the decision to go forward and maybe consider your company as an option as an intern or once they graduate.
And one of the things that you could do, in addition to that, if they're finding that researching brands is a big deal, again, if you have some sort of event the night before, if you have a list of the people that not only were speaking on behalf of your company at that event, but also maybe a list of the people that are attending the career fair the next day. So students can say, hey, I saw that John Smith's going to be at this career fair, and I'm really interested in talking to that company. And specifically, I've gone to look at John Smith's LinkedIn profile. So when I get in front of John Smith, he's going to see me above and beyond anybody else because I've taken the time to research John Smith on LinkedIn, and I can talk to him specifically about the work he's done. You know, John Smith's going to remember that candidate more than anybody else.
Well, I like that. That's a great way to build rapport and make a lasting impression. Are there some other things that recruiters can do that you would recommend? Again,
I think the more that you can tell the students how to find you, how to talk to you, the better. Students, this is a lot of their first jobs ever, so they don't know what to expect. The more that you can give them a clear understanding of what's going to happen in the next part of the process. We're coming back on campus. We're going to be doing tech interviews. Are you interested in coming back for that? We're having an event later on in the semester, and we're going to bring pizza to this particular group or association. Come back for that. I think the more that you engage with them in that level, and the more that you make them feel welcome and help with their insecurity of being nervous and not knowing what to do, I think the better, all the better. And honestly, I think, and this is just me, and I'm an open networker for sure, but I accept almost everybody that connects with me on LinkedIn unless I just feel like there's absolutely nobody in my network that I could help them with. I don't always have a chance to speak back to those people on LinkedIn, but I'm happy to help because we're all in this world together, and we need to be networking to help each other. Finding jobs is just one of the ways, but staying connected with them and having a quick conversation with them, they'll remember you and they'll tell their friends about your company, and you never know where that'll take you. What about Facebook? You mentioned LinkedIn. Are you okay with connecting with career fair or job candidates via Facebook? You know, if I'm using my career page and our company page, I'm probably more excited to connect with them there than I am on a personal page. I probably do have a little bit more personal and locked down Facebook page. I might talk to them on Facebook if they can get through to my messages section, but no, for the most part, me personally, I pretty much keep my Facebook a little bit more private. I think that's true with a lot of recruiters. There's an interesting dialogue on this Facebook group that I'm a part of. It's the employment branding Facebook group. And we were talking about how do you keep your Facebook private? Do you let candidates friend you? And then there was a lot of interesting discussion over 2 Facebook accounts, which I know that is against the terms of service. Yeah, but I mean, having 2 Facebook accounts kind of allows for that personal versus professional separation. Have you done anything like that? I don't. I only have one Facebook account because I have too many social media accounts. If I had multiple social media accounts on each of those, it would be too much to handle. So with my Facebook, though, I completely understand, and it's very easy for me to click between a share on a post that I have with my friends and family versus a share that's publicly. So if I'm posting out a job and I want it to go out to Facebook, which I do, then I want to make sure it's a public-facing post that anybody can see that sees me on Facebook. But otherwise, I'm usually keeping it pretty locked down to friends and family. Agreed. And so Kim's talking about utilizing lists for those purposes. So just making sure that you create lists and then you can disseminate information to different groups of people so that everybody doesn't see, personal information or things about you that maybe you would like to keep private. Exactly. What should follow up with candidates after a career fair or job fair look like? For me, I think at the very, very least, to follow up for me with a candidate is to actually send them an email. As long as I've gotten their if I've gotten their contact information, which I think you should, because you never know where and if they might be a good hire for you, then I want to at least acknowledge that I saw them and I spoke to them. And it can be as easy as a mass message that it may or may not have, merged their name into that message. I think personally it should have their name in it. But at least, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. And again, reiterating what they need to do for next steps. We saw you. We got a copy of your resume, or we didn't get a copy of your resume. More and more companies aren't taking resumes at job fairs. But here are the next steps. Here's the URL to apply. Here's where you want to follow up. Here's a page that talks about, a day in the life of our company. So I think you can never tell the students or anybody at a career fair too many times what to do for them to actually apply and get into your applicant tracking system, or however you're handling the candidates that come to you.
What are your thoughts about non-traditional career fairs, like maybe a virtual career fair or hackathon?
Non-traditional virtual career fairs, I've done a few of those. It's interesting to have the chat and to have the live communication back and forth with candidates. I haven't found those to be super, super successful yet. I don't know that they're not. I just personally haven't. And then the hackathons, I think, are fantastic. That gets people really engaged and understanding, and you actually get to see a level of their technological prowess to on whether or not they're capable of doing what you need them to do in a real-life scenario at your company. So I think those are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I like the hackathons because it doesn't necessarily feel like a career fair. It's kind of like...
Right.
Friends coding with friends, and there's oftentimes a competition involved. So if you're competitive and you just want to kind of show off your skills or your prowess, you attend.
And it's a great way for you to continue to gain expertise in your area. But I love when I see people talk about, I was, champion of this hackathon on their resume. I think that's great. Do it. But you and I are pretty non-traditional people. We like all those kind of crazy out-of-the-box things.
Yeah, but I think candidates like those things too, especially if you have a company that's a little non-traditional. Like you have to cater your career fairs and your efforts that way.
For sure.
Well, Kim, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people go to learn more about you and what you do?
At Kim Hollinshead on Twitter is a great place to do that. LinkedIn, again, I accept just about all LinkedIn requests. It's Kim Hollinshead. I'm here in Austin, Texas, in beautiful Austin, Texas. And again, I'm the senior recruiter here at Xenos, and we are hiring lots of people in the Austin area as well. So happy to connect with them about positions here at our company.
Yeah, go to Kim's LinkedIn profile because she has some of the positions that she's recruiting for listed on her profile page. So connect with her there and then check it out, which I think is a really smart way to talk to candidates about, what positions are really important right now on your recruiting radar.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Kim, for joining us, and thank you for listening to the Workology podcast today, where we discuss the science and art of the workplace HR and recruitment. This is Jessica Miller-Merrill. Until next time, you can visit Blogging for Jobs to listen to all our previous Workology podcast episodes.
Production services for the Workology podcast with Jessica Miller-Merrill provided by TotalPicture.com.